Dada and Didi and my friends. It is very enlightening to talk on this day of Niilkanth Divas. Dada Arun Prakash will talk in detail. I will just start, give you some glimpses that what was happened and how it was happened and what was the result of that. We know that our Earth, the planet Earth, is very fortunate to have three Mahasi, Shri Sadashiv, Lord Krishna, and Shrii Shrii Anandamurtiji. Unfortunately, बड़ा दुख का विषय है कि तीनों को काफी टॉर्चर किया गया हर तरह से, क्योंकि तीनों ने यहाँ की भलाई के लिए, मानव की भलाई के लिए, मानव समाज के निर्माण के लिए अपना अथक प्रयास किया। शिव को विष पीना पड़ा, क्योंकि देवताओं ने अमृत पी लिया तो विष कौन पीता। कंठ में ले लिया, नीलकंठ बन गए। शिव एक ऐसी संभूति है जिसने उस समय के समाज को बढ़ाने के लिए अपनी जी जान लगा दी। शिव तंत्र विशारद थे, शिव संगीत विशारद थे, शिव नृत्य विशारद थे, शिव वैदिक ज्ञान के, और शिव ने हर तरह से, शिव ने सबसे पहले प्रथम विवाह की, तो विवाह पद्धति प्रारंभ की थी वो शिव ने की। तो इस समाज की रचना के लिए जो जो चीज आवश्यक थी सब शिव ने दिया। जितने भी जातियां प्रजातियां थी उनको आपस में मिलाया, जो आपस में लड़ते थे उनको लड़के शिव ने कहा कि देखो, लड़ने में समय नष्ट मत करो, तुम्हारा जीवन का उद्देश्य कुछ और। तो इसलिए शिव ने 3 विवाह किए ताकि तीनों ग्रुप, मंगोलियन ग्रुप, जो पर्वतीय ग्रुप और यहाँ के नॉन आर्यन ग्रुप आपस में नहीं लड़े। तो काफी कष्टों के साथ शिव ने अपना जीवन व्यतीत किया, और अभी भी हम शिव के बहुत सारे शिक्षाओं से अनभिज्ञ हैं। यदि वास्तव में किसी को हमारे देश का राष्ट्रपिता कहा जाए तो वो शिव ही हो सकते हैं। फिर कृष्ण आए, जीवन किया, पांडवों ने कष्ट सहा, और बड़ी मुश्किल से अंत में समय में जाकर धर्म की विजय हुई। कृष्ण को भी बचपन में विषपान करना पड़ा, कितनी बार मृत चढ़ा दिया गया क्योंकि उन्होंने सत्य बात कही। सुकरात को जहर पिला दिया गया क्योंकि वो अगेंस्ट थे सच्चाई, वो चाहते थे कि सच्चा ही प्रतिष्ठित हो, लेकिन नहीं, तो उन्हें हंसते हंसते जहर पी लिया। मीरा ने भी जहर पी लिया क्योंकि उसको पूरा विश्वास था अपने प्रिय के ऊपर, अपने इष्ट के ऊपर, कि वो मुझे बचा लेंगे। वो भक्त थे, और उसको मारने के लिए लोगों ने प्रश्न किया कि मर जाए, लेकिन परमात्मा ने उसको बचा लिया, उन्होंने विषपान कर लिया। कबीरदास एक उच्च उन्मत्त प्रकार के व्यक्ति थे, जिन्होंने हर तरह से सभी लोगों को उत्साहित किया, जो भी आडंबर थे उनके विरुद्ध बोला, और निर्गुण भक्ति के पथ पर सबको अग्रसर किया। उसका नतीजा था कि अंत में इनकी भी हत्या की। महाप्रभु चैतन्य, जिन्होंने कीर्तन के माध्यम से पूरे जगत को एक करना चाहा था, जिसमें सभी लोग कीर्तन करते उनके पीछे चल पड़े थे, तो बड़े बड़े पंडितों को बड़ा मुश्किल हुई कि हमारा अस्तित्व खतरे में हो जाएगा। उनको भी अल्टीमेटली मार दिया गया। तो ये सब जितने भी हैं ह्यूमनिस्ट, मानवतावादी या उच्च मानवतावादी, आध्यात्मवादी, महा भक्त, जो एक महाविश्व के लिए तैयारी कर रहे थे, सबको बहुत बहुत कष्ट सहने पड़े, और कुछ को मृत्यु का सामना भी करना पड़ा। ये हमारा एक इस पृथ्वी का बड़ा दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण व्यक्ति। और उसी कड़ी के अंदर 12 फरवरी को श्री श्री प्रभात रंजन सरकार और श्री श्री आनंदमूर्ति जी को बांकीपुर जेल के अंदर जहर देकर मारने का सब पूरा प्रयास किया, लेकिन वो बच गए। और ये आज ही का दिन है जिसको हम नीलकंठ दिवस करके मनाते हैं, क्योंकि श्री सरकार और आनंदमूर्ति जी तंत्र विशारद हैं, राजाधिराज योग के प्रचट हैं, और वो ये उनकी फिलॉसफी एक ही है जो तंत्र और योग का सम्मिलित रूप से किस तरह मनुष्य अपने जीवन में प्रयोग कर सकता है, ये उन्होंने प्रतिपादित किया। नया साइंस बायोसाइकोलॉजी, जैव मनोविज्ञान, माइक्रोबायोलॉजी, अणुजीव विज्ञान उनकी ही देन है। इसके पहले माइक्रोबायोलॉजी के बारे में किसी को कोई कंसेप्ट नहीं था। न्यू ह्यूमनिज्म, नव्य मानवतावादी, उनके देन आर्ट में, कल्चर के अंदर, साहित्य के अंदर, योगिक चिकित्सा के अंदर बड़ा बड़ा अप्रतिम कल्चर है। तो उसको व्यक्ति जीवन तो उसको संपूर्ण पूरा से नहीं प्राप्त कर सकता। प्रभात संगीत उनका नया संगीत है। प्रभात संगीत न्यू डॉन संगीत है। 5018 संगीत उन्होंने दिए। हर तरह से हर व्यक्ति के भावना को लेकर उन्होंने संगीत दिया। और एक प्राउड सोशो इकोनॉमिक थ्योरी उन्होंने दी है, जिसके बेसिस पर किस तरह संपूर्ण मानवता का विकास किया जा सकता है, संपूर्ण मानव समाज को एक किया जा सकता है। प्राउड प्रोग्रेसिव यूट्रेशन थ्योरी, हिंदी में प्राउड प्रगतिशील उपयोगी तत्व। और ये एक प्राउड है जो एक गॉड सेंटर फिलोसफी है, न्यू ह्यूमनिस्टिक सोशो इकोनॉमिक फिलोसफी जो गॉड सेंटर्ड है, नव मानवतावादी के ऊपर है, और सोशो इकोनॉमिक फिलोसफी है जो मानवता की हर कंप्लेन को, हर प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व करने में सक्षम है। भविष्य में प्राउड ही एक ऐसा दर्शन, एक ऐसा दर्शन रहेगा जो मानवता को आगे बढ़ा सके, क्योंकि कैपिटलिस्ट भी खत्म होगा, कम्युनिस्ट खत्म होने जा रहा है, तो कोई का सिस्टम नहीं है जो मानवता को एक सूत्र में बांध सके, केवल प्राउड। और यही प्राउड है, इन सब के कारण से जितने भी लोग हुए उन सबका एक यूनिवर्सल आउटलुक था, और श्री आनंद मुर्ति जी का भी एक बड़ा यूनिवर्सल आउटलुक। तभी वो हर बार अपने संदेश में, अपने डिस्कोर्स के बाद में यही कहा करते हैं कि सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामया, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःख भाग भयं। Let all be happy, let all be happy, let all be रोग मुक्त, सब दुखी रोग से मुक्त हो, सभी खुश रहें, सभी एक एक दूसरे के साक्षी बने, और किसी को दुख भोग नहीं करना पड़े। यूनिवर्सल आउटलुक। तो ये मल्टीफेस पर्सनालिटी लोगों को नहीं भाई। उन्होंने देखा कि ये कुछ न कुछ हमारा अस्तित्व खतरे के अंदर, स्पेशली प्राउड। और उसी का ये नतीजा था कि 12 फरवरी 1917 को पॉलिटिकली मोटिवेटेड ड्रग के माध्यम से उनको विषपान कराया गया, ताकि वो हट जाए, सभी खत्म हो जाए, उनका प्राउड खत्म हो जाए, और पूरा आनंद मार्ग भी खत्म हो जाए। तो इस हिस्टोरिकल बांकीपुर जेल के अंदर, पटना, जो पटना बिहार में स्थित था, अभी भी अब तो उसके अवशेष बचे हैं, उनको जहर देकर, सीवर ऐसा जहर जिससे बचना बड़ा मुश्किल था, दवा के माध्यम से देकर उनको समाप्त करने की पूरी प्रयत्न किया। ये बांकीपुर सेंट्रल जेल कॉलोनियल प्रिजन था, जिसके अंदर बड़े बड़े जैसे राजेंद्र प्रसाद हैं, ब्रिज किशोर प्रसाद हैं, श्री कृष्ण सिन्हा हैं, जितने भी स्वतंत्रता सेनानी थे, इसमें कई रह के अपना जीवन यापन कर चुके। और उसी जेल के अंदर जब बाबा ने कहा कि मुझे पॉइजन दिया गया है, उसकी कोई इंक्वायरी नहीं हुई, तो उन्होंने फास्टिंग शुरू कर दिया, जो 5 साल 4 महीने और 2 दिन चला। ये भी एक अपने आप में एक इतिहास है कि इतना लंबा फास्ट कौन किसी ने आज तक नहीं किया, वो भी 2 कप बटर मिल्क के ऊपर। 1 अप्रैल से स्टार्ट हो गए, 2 अगस्त 78 तक उनका फास्ट चलता रहा। और अंत में जब सत्य की विजय हुई, जब धर्म की विजय हुई, उनको 22 छोड़ दिया गया, तब जाके उन्होंने फास्ट ब्रेक किया, और उनका विद इन अ मंथ पूरा प्रोग्राम अगेन स्टार्ट। जेल में रहते हुए भी बड़े वो निष्क्रिय हो गए, बॉडी पे पूरा इफेक्ट था पॉइजन का, लेकिन फिर भी उन्होंने कहा कि यू डू योर वर्क विदाउट एंजाइटी। मैं अपना ड्यूटी कर रहा हूँ, तुम लोग भी अपनी ड्यूटी करो, अपनी ड्यूटी से पीछे न हटो। इसको कहते हैं प्रोग्रेसिविटी, प्रगतिवाद। इस इंक्वायरी के पीछे जब इंक्वायरी नहीं हुई, तो लोगों ने अपना देह दान, मतलब जल के अपने को खत्म कर दिया। ये भी एक ऐसी बात है कि ऐसी आज तक कोई घटना हुई कि पूरे विश्व के अंदर लोगों ने आत्मदाह किया इसके लिए कि आनंद मूर्ति जी को छोड़ दिया जाए। 8 लोगों ने किया। दीवानंद जी ने बिहार के स्टेट असेंबली के सामने किया, रेड फोर्ट के अंदर किया, अतुलानंद जी ने तो सेंट्रल जेल पटना के अंदर ही कर दिया। और फिर स्विट्जरलैंड से शांति आचार्य ब्रह्मचारिणी, फिर वेस्ट जर्मनी से और यूएसए से और फिलीपींस से कितने लोगों ने इसमें देखा कि उनके गुरु को उनकी उनकी जांच की जाए और उनको छोड़ा जाए। लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली आज तक किसी भी इंक्वायरी कमीशन का गठन नहीं हुआ और न इसके ऊपर किसी की जरूरत। अब ये जो हिस्टोरिक स्थान था बांकीपुर जेल, उसको समाप्त करके यहाँ एक बुद्ध स्मृति पार्क बना दिया गया, जो मई 27 2010 को बुद्ध पूर्णिमा के दिन इसका इनॉग्रेशन दलाई लामा ने किया था। विचित्र बात है कि जिस स्थान पर श्री आनंदमूर्ति जी का सेल था, सेल नंबर 13, उसी स्थान पर ये इनॉग्रेशन का प्रोग्राम किया गया और वो तिथि थी वैशाखी पूर्णिमा, जो श्री आनंदमूर्ति जी का भी जन्म दिवस है और बुद्ध का भी जन्म दिवस। तो कुछ अवशेष रहते हुए इस जेल का मॉडिफिकेशन किया गया और बीच में स्तूप बना के वहाँ बुद्ध बुद्ध स्मृति पार्क का निर्माण किया। तो बाबा ने अपने जेल में संदेश में ये कहा था, जैसे कि अभी आपने सुना था, कि ये टॉर्चर जो मुझे और मेरे बच्चों को और मेरे बच्चों को दिया गया है, जो तो इसको, इस टेल को, इस कहानी को पूरे विश्व के अंदर तुम सुनाओ, ताकि इस विश्व का हर कंट्री के अंदर, हर कॉन्टिनेंट के अंदर, हर कंट्री के अंदर, हर ग्रह के अंदर लोग जाने कि किस तरह धर्म के लिए हमें कितना टॉर्चर किया गया। और उसी सीरीज के अंदर आज हमारे पास में अरुण प्रकाश जी हैं, वो इस टॉर्चर की पूरी कहानी उन्होंने एक बुक में लिखा है और वो इस पे डिटेल के अंदर हम लोगों को इसके बारे में बताएं। धन्यवाद।
Sir, for this valuable input. As we all know that PROUT, that is the progressive utilization theory, it was the basic reason for all those inflictive tortures which have been given to the organization. And really it is the right time to move unitedly to try to establish this PROUT theory now, which is the panacea of more than 32 kind of diseases, problems in the world. And now it is time to introduce our esteemed keynote speaker, Commander Arun Prakash Bhattacharya ji, to the participants. So let me give a brief introduction. Commander Bhattacharya, he is an alumnus of the Rashtriya Indian Military College, Dehradun, and the National Defence Academy, was commissioned in the Indian Navy in 1965. And he was awarded Vishisht Seva Medal for distinguished services by President of India. And then later, after 1989, he served as teaching and teaching come literary pursuits at his alma mater for almost 5 years. He is a prolific poet and writer under the pen name of Arun Prakash. And he has composed over 7,400 poems on spiritual and other themes. And he has also translated Prabhat Sangeet, 5018 Prabhat Sangeet from Bangla to English. His first book was published by Minerva Press, London in November 1999, which was In Love with God. And the second book was released in October 2004. It was The Young Warriors, A History of the Rashtriya Indian Military College. And a coffee table book titled Raj Bhavan Nainital, a Scottish castle in Kumaon Highlands. It was released in June 2006, followed by a huge catchpole of the subcontinent, which was released in May 2007 in Dehradun. And another coffee table book on the Indian Military Academy, Dehradun. It was released in 2010. A non-fictional book about India and China titled Springing Dragon, Crouching Tiger. It was released in October 2010. And a fictional novel, Vrindavan Express, about Proutistic interplanetary societies of the future. It was released in November 2010. And he has also compiled A Garland of Stars, which is a book of having few quotations of Shrii Shrii Anandamurtiji. And also coffee table books in 2 volumes, The History of the Army in Delhi, which was released in 2014. And the second edition of Vrindavan Express, it was released in 2015. Then in 2020, Azure Blue and Canary Yellow, The History of 62 Cavalry, it was released. And recently in 2021, Prabhatanjali, a book of spiritual poems, was released. And his latest publications are the 2-volume book. First is the Cell Number 13, Bankipur Central Jail, having 420 pages. And the second is Darkness of Dogma, Fears, Flames of Illumination, having 1544 pages. And both these books They chronicle the torture which have been inflicted upon Sri Sarkar. And these books have been printed by Thompson Press, New Delhi, and recently released in January 2022. So, with this brief introduction, now I invite Sharon Prakashji to talk on 12th February 1973, the day of infamy.
Thank you, Vatikaji. It's in fact, after hearing Dr. Vermaji, I have very little left to say, you know. No, you have to go to the slide number 1. Just one little bit of glitch.
No problem, sir.
That's right now. Actually, Verma ji, आपने तो इतना कुछ बोल दिया मेरे को. I have nothing much left to say. You know, you said almost everything about Baba. So anyway, still, I will whatever little I can, because a great many luminaries like you are there, and people all over the world are listening to this. Some few friends of mine, I have invited them. And in fact, I got a very nice email this morning from Dr. Dhanju Ghista. He is in California, and he told me that I will certainly hear this talk, even though it's going to be from 3:30 to 5:30 in the morning. So he is also listening. Dhanju ji, aapko namaskar, and thank you very much. And thanks to all of you who have graced this talk in honor of Baba and present in this wonderful setting organized by Vartika ji and Dr. Verma ji. So with your permission, Dr. Saab, may I begin? Thank you. See, this is going down. Okay, namaskar to all of you, and please go to the next slide. Basically, the presentation outline is, I'm going to deal with them, is one is, number one, top of the list is Baba's arrest. And the main theme of our talk today is the tortures that he faced in jail, and the worst and the most unbelievable incident that happened about his poisoning at 10:30 in the night, 49 years old, on this very day. This naturally had its effect on all his devotees and followers. And there was a severe outbreak of protests all over India and overseas. And some of them who could not bear it at all, they gave up their lives and self-immolated, hoping to bring the world's attention. But sadly, nothing much happened. And finally, there's a small request to the organizers that for all these Dadichis who self-immolated or who were killed, who were not mentioned in today's presentation, they should have a memorial for them. You know, this is an old picture of Baba's house in Patliputra Colliery in Patna. Now, Baba was actually arrested on December 29, 1971 from this house. But that was not his first arrest. He was arrested twice before. First time was on August 28, 1969, in the infamous Kuch Bihar incident. You know, there was a DMC organized, and it was very nicely organized. Baba had come on the stage and he was about to address. Suddenly, about 500 odd CPM gundas came in, armed with lathis and iron rods, and they disrupted the meeting. And the police came in later towards sunset. And by then, these people all ran away. And the police, what they did is, instead of trying to catch those people who started this, they arrested Baba. And in this bargain, Baba's bodyguard, in this melee that happened, Baba's bodyguard was Ravi Sarkar was killed, and many others were injured. And it was really hell for leather because all women and children screaming. And Baba was arrested along with 37 others, and he was taken to a police station. He had to spend the night there. That was in 69. In July 71, he was again arrested from Patna by the Ranchi police. This was part of that infamous Ranchi bomb explosive case, where certain bombs were planted in his house, and they were found. Not in the first raid, but some days later, they were found, and it was quite obvious it was all planted. Now, this Ranchi explosive case was still was going on, and finally, from this house, on the 29th of December, he was arrested. The months leading to Baba's arrest from this house was very difficult days for Anand Marga. You see, the CBI had very secretly and stealthily infiltrated Anand Marga organization, and then they engineered a defection of very few people, and sadly, including his wife. And these are the people who betrayed him. But Baba was ready, smiling, ready for his arrest. And in fact, that same night, he called his personal secretary, Ramanand, and told him to pack his suitcase. And he said, these are some people will be coming in the night, but don't worry. Just hold them on. Give me 5 minutes. I will come down when they are ready. So, though he was all ready and packed with the suitcase. This arrest actually was almost like a military operation, you know. Police vans had come, police cars had come, and lots of armed police had come. They came and surrounded this little rented house that you see on your screen. In the middle of the night, it was about 2:30 at the night they came. They wanted to arrest him, but they came in nicely, quietly, and said, we just want to do namaskar to Baba, you know. So Baba, of course, realized that this is just a ruse. He said, look, do they have a warrant? Then Ramanand went down and asked them. They said, no, we don't need a warrant. But if you like, we will show it to you. Then they showed it to him. And that is how the whole thing started. Finally, at 6 o'clock in the morning, he was taken out of the house. And despite a lot of pleas to the CBI party that, look, we will take you, he says, we want to take him for questioning. And Ramanand told him, look, I'll drive him in the car. You tell me where to go. But they said no. So they just took him like that. And he was taken in the police car. But Ramanand tried to follow him as much as possible. But then they were very clever. They turned left, right, and here and there. And they shook him off his tail. And then they drove him around Patna all morning. And Baba's words, I will read out to you. This is exactly what happened. He says, I'm reading Baba's words. I was arrested by the CBI on some concocted charges. The previous day, 28 December, was Ekadasi. It was my fasting day. And on the 29th morning, after I was arrested, they did not allow me to do my morning duties and daily spiritual practice. They did not allow me to even take a single drop of water. They produced me before the SDO Patna in the afternoon. My remand order to jail was kept ready in SDO's office before I was produced in the SDO's chamber and not in the court. This shows that the SDO had decided to send me to jail even before she saw me and saw the arrested person, and she did not ask me a single question. So I did not get a chance to narrate the tales of torture that was brought to bear on me, which was another I was then told to shift it to Buxar jail, which was in another district, not in Patna. Mind you, now, of course, I'm saying myself, he was arrested from Patna, but taken to Buxar. Because the CBI was very, very afraid that his arrest would create a big disturbance. So they did it quietly. And then they drove him to Buxar, and where he reached at 11 o'clock in the night. And he had to remain without any food and water for about almost 60 hours at a stretch. This was Baba's own words. Now, let's go to the next slide. You see, this is Dadas and Didis. I just want to show, this is an old map of Patna. If you look at the bottom left side, there is a small cluster showing, this is an 1885 map called Pulwari, and next to River Ganga is Bankipur, and on the left of that is the Dinapur cantonment. Bankipur was a jail, Pulwari was another jail. And this jail, both these jails, Baba was in Bankipur jail and in Pulwari jail. Lots of our Margi brothers and sisters were jailed during the emergency and even before that. Next. This is just a small sketch how our Dadas had to suffer in the Pulwari Sharif jail. Next.
Kalyani's surgery went well. Please keep the corneal topography, posterior float, and corneal pachymetry reports on my table. And Kalyani's father?
Yes, doctor.
LASIK surgery went well. She's fine.
Can I see her?
You can take her along with you.
Hey, Kalyani?
We know how to speak the language of care. Vasanai care.
Oh no! बाइक का एक्सीडेंट हो गया और अब समझ में नहीं आ रहा कि क्या करें। टेंशन किस बात की? डिजिट है ना, वीडियो बनाओ और डिजिट ऐप पर क्लेम डालो। डिजिट बाइक इंश्योरेंस लेना और बिना टेंशन जीना। Renew your bike insurance today.
Now, I'll just spell out a little bit of the tortures that he had to face. Conditions in jail were so horrible that his health deteriorated. And after about a couple of weeks, he had to be rushed to the hospital in Patna. But the tragedy, Dadas and Didis, is in hospital also he was tortured. This is how they were all out to end his life, and they thought by ending his life, they will crush the organization, and that will be the end of Anand Marg forever and more. Now, for 3 days, from 25th February 1973, he was given no food. This was continuously. The motive was very clear. They wanted to finish him off. Then no relatives or visitors were allowed. And he was under trial as per all rules and regulations. Under trials are allowed home food in the jail or wherever else they are in hospital under the guise of the jail. But there, even in the hospital, he was not allowed home food. And he had to eat whatever was given to him by the hospital. It was unhygienic food. And this even compounded his health further. And finally, in the first week of April, he was sent to Bankipur Central Jail, and the tortures continued there, and his health ruined still further. Next slide, please. The jail tortures continued. I mean, they are in so much detail. I mean, I don't have the time to mention all that, but it is pathetic. And all these, he spelled it out in a letter which he wrote to the governor of Bihar. But sadly, nobody paid any attention, neither the governor nor any chief minister or anybody else. He was the head of a spiritual organization with a large following all over the world, but nobody bothered. They were so keen to literally finish him off. This is not it is not an unfounded allegation or charge. It is a fact of life, People may not believe it today, but it is a fact of life. Those who were there those days, and those who were there, who have followed up all that when till today, his followers and devotees who know all the stories, we see the older generation is gradually passing away. And it is important that the next generation of devotees and Margis know that this is what Baba had to go through. I'll come to the next thing. His mother was almost dying, and he wanted to go and visit her at least once to see her before she died. They did not allow her. Even after she died, they did not allow him to go and perform her last rites. This was in the first week of June. And he was the eldest son. And his mother used to keep on asking, where is Boo Boo? Boo Boo was his pet name, Where is Boo Boo? So his other brothers and sisters would tell the mother, look, he is busy, this thing, he's busy with organization work. Nobody had the heart to tell her that her eldest son has been put in jail. So that was the background. And even the last rites were not allowed to be performed in the first week of June. And then for almost 50 hours, they stopped his food continuously. And this is what he wrote himself to the governor, that with the sole intention of killing him as per the CBI's verbal instructions. And to cap it all, he was alone in the jail. They kept many police constables outside just to keep an eye on him, and so that nobody could see what all is happening inside. And it was Baba's strong suspicion, and everybody believed him who knew him, that they clearly wanted to kill him. And he said it in so many words in a letter to the governor. Next, please.
GoDaddy has the perfect hosting plan for any website, from low-cost shared hosting to your own virtual server. Every plan comes with a...
See, now we come to the main climax, of the poisoning. See, this is a small sketch drawn by an unknown artist. If you notice that Baba is lying there on a cot in the jail, and there are 4 persons are there. They are the 4 co-accused who were charged for the same offense, which of course we'll come to later. But what happened in January 1973, they were all removed out from that jail. They used to look after him and tend to his needs. And that was Baba had some company, and in spite of all these tortures, they would look after him. But the Inspector General of Prisons, Bihar, just transferred them out of Bankipur. 2 were sent to Daltonganj and 2 were sent to Buxar jail, even though they had no cases in those districts. Next, please. Now, this is a picture, of course, which was shown Dr. Vermaji's slide. This is a very, very famous painting of Jacques Louis David. It was painted in 1787. And this is shows how readily the famous Greek philosopher in 399 BC readily took that cup of poison, hemlock, and swallowed it. You see the people around crying, some looking this side, some looking that side. But he smilingly swallowed that and ended his life. Now, I just wanted to show this as a reminder, like what, of course, Dr. Vermaji has shown many more in his introductory presentation. Many more down the ages of history were very brutally tortured and, in fact, had to pay with their life. Next, please. Now, this gives you an idea what the jail looks like, Next, please. Now, this is an actual picture of the jail at the main gate. This is the main gate jail, and this was taken sometime in 1970s. And Baba was very much inside those horrible walls, you know. Next. Now we come to the poisoning, you know, just the Niilkanth Divas, which we celebrate, rather commemorate is the right word. Next year, it will be 50 years of Niilkanth Divas. See, at 10:30 p.m. in the night, you know, the doctor gave him the poison. See, I'll go back a little bit. Before Baba was in jail, he was in good health, but due to this continuous torture by the government and jail authorities, his health was ruined. And I mentioned about the police constables also. See, now coming to the poisoning, in the afternoon of February 12th, Baba felt very unwell. Because for whatever reason, then the jail doctor prescribed some medicines for diarrhea and dysentery. The main doctor was one Dr. Sarkar. He was away on leave, and in his leave absence, they employed another Dr. Rahmatullah, who was posted in his hurry on telephonic instructions as leave relief. And he turned out to be the perfect tool in CBI's hands. That same afternoon when Baba was not feeling well, at 9 in the evening, at night, he felt still unwell. So the doctor was informed, and he was told to get the civil surgeon, the top doctor in the city, so that he could come and look at him and prescribe a proper medical treatment for him. At about 10:30, doctor was informed and he came. And he said that the civil surgeon is not likely to come, but he has prescribed some medicine on phone, and he gave that medicine to Baba to have. This was a medicine, he said. Soon after having the medicine, he became unconscious, almost like in a coma stage, from which he woke up only next morning at 7. He regained consciousness, and he felt extreme weakness and nervous reaction all over his body. There's profuse watering from both eyes. There was extreme pain and inertness of the brain. You know, the brain had practically frozen, so to speak. And all these 3 symptoms had happened. And the biggest joke was this watering from the eyes was ticked off as conjunctivitis that Baba had, and he was prescribed some eye drops. In fact, on the 14th morning, he could see nothing even from a short distance. He had almost like blind. You know, the nerves in his eye, the optic nerves in his brain were damaged to that extent. Next, please. Now, after this great incident that happened, naturally, everybody was so much worried. Next morning, Dada Ramananda came and saw him, and he was shocked beyond belief what he saw. When he said he couldn't even describe exactly, he couldn't describe properly exactly what he felt when he saw him. In fact, everybody thought that Baba was going to die anytime, you know. But Baba, by a miracle, survived that. It was really a miracle. Then on the 21st of February, he verbally requested that please hold a judicial inquiry. I'm telling you, I wasn't given proper medicine, but I was given poison. And these are the symptoms that I had. And when they didn't listen to him verbally, on the 27th, he gave a written inquiry, written request. And then he also requested for a class 1 magistrate whom he wished to give a statement to say what all happened. Neither the magistrate was appointed nor a judicial inquiry commission started. So on 5th March 1973, he wrote to the Bihar governor. I am quoting his exact words, which are in red on your screen. I have strong suspicion that certain black hands are working against me, and some of them are important persons. I want to disclose their names before the Judicial Commission. Now, after this whole incident of poisoning, there's an uproar all over India and also overseas. Massive amount of protests. A massive amount of protests happened. The torture had reached its peak, Baba used the word zenith. And hundreds and thousands of Margis, anxious for his life, sent telegrams to the President of India and to the Prime Minister of India. But it cut no ice with anybody, either in the government or outside the government. Now, after Baba's poisoning, when his condition stabilized somewhat, protests took on a more systematic and clinical turn. Baba wanted the news of his poisoning broadcasted throughout the world, like Vermaji mentioned, every home, every house, all over the world. He wanted people to know. So Ramanand Dada, his personal secretary, went on a world tour. And with a delegation, he met the Under-Secretary General of the United Nations in New York. And he also met the Director, Amnesty International in London. And then he traveled practically all over North America and South America, from country to country, telling about Baba's story. Now, next please. See, these are a few of the slides I will show about the protests that happened in India. Next. Overseas protests. These are 2 pictures of protests in America. In America, they had a very unique way of protesting. They called it the Free Baba movement, And it spread like wildfire, though not many numbers, but it was spread like wildfire. They protested. They came out on the streets. They protested in Washington, D.C. in front of the Capitol building. They had a press conference in Carnegie Hall. And a lot of people there collected money and sent it to India to fight Baba's case. In fact, history cannot forget the role of the American Margi brothers and sisters and the Dadas there, who really worked so hard, and also in faraway Australia, even in Canada and Australia and New Zealand. They all protested, they all collected money to fight Baba's case. And the government, in their great power hungry mode, they passed a law to say that no more remittances can come for Baba's case. They froze all these remittances. And those are really, really very, very difficult days that Anand Marg had to face, and Baba was still languishing in jail. Next. Here is another picture of people protesting in their unique way, singing kirtan. Now in America, if anybody is singing kirtan on the road, people will look and wonder what is happening. So people will stop their cars and see what is happening to find out what is happening. Then they came to know there's an organization called Anand Marg. They said, what do they do? Or said, we do this, we run schools, we did this, we try and cure drug addicts, we teach people to be good. And these are the things. This is how a lot of the work that Anand Marga was doing came to the notice of people who had absolutely no idea what Anand Marga was or what Baba was. Next, please. Now, this is a picture in Australia. This is a picture in Australia. Also protesting. Next. Now, this is a picture, we have to thank this American Didi you see in the foreground. You know, she took this picture of our Dadas in Fulwari Sharif jail, which I mentioned to you about. Now you can see from the left, that is Mr. Ranjan Dwivedi, and that is Santosh Anand Dada. Next to him is Artesh Anand Dada. I am his Dikha Bhai. Of course, he is no more. And then Sudev Anand Dada in the jacket. And behind, in between Ranjan Dwivedi ji and Santosh Anand ji is Acharya Vinay Anand, whose face you can see behind the bars. This was sent to, a picture was sent to Dada Santosh Ananda by this Didi. Next, please. Come to the self-immolations. Yes, before I come to that, I'll just go back. Yes, please go back to the previous slide. Back. Before that, you know, on the protest front, I want to add a few more things. That since the government did not, I want to add one more thing, in fact. Since the government denied the judicial inquiry, so what had happened is a judicial commission was still appointed, a non-official judicial inquiry commission. That is Chakravarti Commission, which we have all heard about. Mr. Amar Prasad Chakravarti and Bhakti Bhushan Mandal, both lawyers, they concluded hearings as per law and indicted the government on many counts. But the government, as was expected, did not cooperate at all. Nobody came forward, even though they were served notices. And one more thing is, in New Delhi on the 23rd of April, thousands of Margis gathered on the boat club lawns for a peaceful protest. They were brutally lathi charged. Also, before that, on February 27th, in New Delhi, while attempting to deliver a memorandum to the Prime Minister in Parliament recommending a judicial inquiry to Baba's poisoning, 50 people had gone to give the memorandum, but 50 Margis were arrested and in Patna, Bihar, where Baba was lodged, on the 2nd of March, 3 Dadas were arrested from the Legislative Assembly building. And as you see, actually what happened is, there was no response for public. So further demonstration in Patna, elsewhere gained publicity. Baba, though incredibly survived the poisoning, although became weak for a long time. As no judicial inquiry was forthcoming, he wrote to the governor to inform him that he would stop eating food for an indefinite period. This was on the April 17th. Now coming back to the March 2nd, I beg your pardon, coming back to the, 3 Dadas were arrested. What they did is they went into the Legislative Assembly, which was in session, and they started dropping leaflets. All of you would know about what Bhagat Singh did during the British time. He went into the Parliament House, which is in Delhi, and dropped leaflets. Of course, he also dropped a bomb for which, but our Dadas did not do any such thing. They dropped leaflets. And the Speaker of the Assembly, Mr. Mishra, he sentenced them. He moved a resolution sentencing them for 15 days imprisonment for disrupting the assembly and bringing disrepute to the house. And this was unanimously passed, except for a few abstentions from the non-Congress opposition parties. Next, please. Now, coming to this demolition, to the self-immolations. Now, you see these pictures. These are the pictures of 8 Didis and Dadas. They are in sequence. First, from the left, if you see, is Dada Divyananda, then Dineshwarananda, then Dada Atul Ananda, then down below is Didi Uma and Dada Lokesh, both Germans, both in Berlin. They self-immolated. Then Dada Gagan, and then Didi Asitima and Didi Shanti. Dada Gagan self-immolated in the place where he was posted in Dallas, Texas. And then Didi Asitima was in Philippines. She was a Swiss lady, and she self-immolated in Manila, Philippines, where she was posted. And Didi Shanti, an Australian lady, she was in Geneva, and in Geneva, in front of the old League of Nations building, she self-immolated. That is briefly about them, but I will just try and say a little bit more about these Dadas and Didis. You see, this was all caused because it was a symbol of extreme protest to focus attention to Baba's torture and poisoning. These 8 monks and nuns and monks of Anandmarg, both from India and overseas, just like soldiers in battle, laid down their lives by self-immolating for their guru. All of them left behind letters explaining reasons why they did it. And in each of these letters, they made it abundantly clear that it was their own personal decisions. All these young hearts burned in the intensity of the fire of their devotion, and their mortal remains scattered in the wind as ashes of faith to be remembered forever and more. Now, these and others, they may be sounding like mere words. They have gone and they will never come back physically. But in this world that is beyond our physical world, in the spiritual world, they are very much there. They're very much there and becoming one with this entire cosmic inheritance that we have. So that is why I use these words, that their mortal remains scattered in the wind as ashes of faith to be remembered forever and more. Not many people who will believe such words unless they are very, very spiritually inclined. But it is a fact. These 8 brave hearts did, which some may not agree with it. And not many would agree with it practically, but they did what they felt on their own, was to bring attention to Baba's tortures in the jail. Others, nobody was even thinking about him, languishing in jail and getting tortured day in and day out. Now, I'll just briefly tell you about what all happened. Let me start with Dada Divyananda. He was so shocked by Baba's poisoning. First, he left food. I'm talking of Dada Divyananda, who is on the extreme left top. First, he left food, then he stopped drinking water. He vowed that I I cannot drink water from a planet in which my guru was poisoned. Then he made a vow before the press. He called the press and told them that I'm going to self-immolate myself. And I will not drink a drop till the torture of my guru is stopped. And he will commit self-immolation. He was first, but at that time there was no such thing as self-immolation in Anandamurti. Nobody knew this was possible. And many were not sure whether he really meant what he said. But police, being what they are, they were on the lookout for him. They wanted to stop him. But he gave them the slip. And early morning on the 9th, before the gates of the Bihar Legislative Assembly building, he set himself alight. And the police could do nothing. He stuck to his word and he did that. And he was a small kind of a person, physically very small, but at heart he was like a giant. He was from the Indian state of Orissa, and very, very highly spiritually realized soul he was. And he was also very, very highly educated, intellectually developed, and a great devotee of Baba. In fact, all of them were great Baba's devotees. Then we come to the next one, Dada Dineshwar Anand, number 2, wearing glasses. He self-immolated on April 24th inside the old fort in Delhi, what we call Purana Killa, that was built by Sher Shah. His last few moments were incredible. He stood there and bade farewell to all and said, "Brothers, I am going." After that, he sat down in Padmasana, poured petrol on himself, and lit a match. There was a big, huge whoosh, and the flames went up 20 feet high in the air. And after a few minutes, it was all over. The body dropped backwards, face up, hands joined in Namaskar. Number 3 is Dada Atul Anand. His story is unique. He was in the jail, and he was a few cells away from Baba, and he saw all the tortures that was going on, and he was absolutely, depressed. He just did not know what to do, but he knew he had to do something. And in jail, what can he do? He had heard about Divyananda Dada and Dineshwar Anand Dada, but what could he do? But he felt he had to do something. And he did something which is incredible, He also announced that, yes, I will also self-immolate. And the jail people laughed it off and said, "Oh, what can you do? You're in the jail, we'll keep eye on you 24 hours a day." What he did was something very, very incredible. Because he was few cells away, he used to look after Baba as his personal secretary. And there was a small pantry there. There was a little stove there. He used to prepare Baba's Horlicks and things like that. And what little kind of whatever he used to do. And that stove had a wee little bit of kerosene in it. Now, with that little kerosene, the other 2 Dadas poured petrol over themselves and lit a match. With a little kerosene, he dropped it on his clothes, he rubbed it on his skin, on his face, hands, whatever that he had, and he lit a match. Naturally, this little fire will not kill him, but he burned. So they rushed him to hospital. This was at 10:30 in the morning. And Dadas and Didis, you would be horrified to learn that he died at 6:30 in the evening, 6 o'clock in the evening, actually, after bearing all the pain and all the time remembering Baba's name. This is how he did it. He was true to his word, and he bore all that pain. In the first 2 cases, it happened very soon. And in his case, he bore all that pain. And it is something remarkable. Not many people know about it. This was Dada Atul Anand. He, of course, he left no message in writing, but his action was the message. Now, this was on December 11th, 1974. Now we come to the two in the center, Didi Uma and Dada Lokesh. They were both Germans and both young, very, very young. She was maybe 24 or 25 and Dada Lokesh was maybe 28 years old. And in Western Europe, like in a country like Germany, this is unheard of, having any kind of self-immolations. In the old days, they used to have in France, the Jesuit priests would self-immolate, but they never did something which would kill them. They would burn parts of the skin and all as protests against the people who were persecuting the Christians there. They would do that. That was also in Eastern Europe, like in Eastern European countries. Western Europe, Germany, France, England, nothing like, there was no, nothing was heard of about immolation. So what these two did was really, really shocked everybody there. They went into the downtown Berlin in the Kaiser Wilhelm Church. They sat down there in front of the old church, and there was a traffic. It was a proper street with a traffic thoroughfare going on. This was very, very widely reported in the local German press, because, like I said, this is something unknown to them. And what is more surprising for all the Germans there, that they could not believe that two young Germans would do this for their guru who is from India, thousands of miles away. It was something beyond their imagination. And they are two young people. And they went out there. It was on the February the 8th. It was 5:30 in the evening. It was very, very cold and dark. 5:30 in Germany in February will be very, very dark. The Germany, the thoroughfare, the Berlin cars were passing up and down. Nobody paid any attention. Then two of them sat down there. They had taken a canister of petrol. They poured over each other, and then they lit a match. There was a restaurant across the street. One young boy, 11-year-old, who saw. So the young boy thought that they have come for a picnic, they're going to having a drink when they picked up the jerry can. But then they just lit the match, and within seconds it was all over. And everybody was wonderstruck, terror-struck. They all stopped their cars to see what was happening. They thought, oh, this cannot be real people. They thought the straw effigies were being burned. Pardon. So that was these two young Germans. Now, then we come to the next picture, number 5 picture on top, number 6 picture on top. That is Dada Gagan. He was in USA. Oh, thank you. Please, thank you, Dada. Thank you, Miguel. Dada Gagan was a Filipino, He's from Philippines. He was posted in Dallas, Texas. Just 8 days after the event in Germany, across the Atlantic in USA, Dada Gagan had decided, look, he has also to do something. So he sat quietly in his office and typed out a letter to President Jimmy Carter to say, we have tried very best to get help for our spiritual guru who is in jail. Please, you all do something. You can You are the president of the most powerful country in this world. You can surely do something. You must do something. Please help him get out of jail. These are all false charges and all. He wrote a nice letter. He signed it and took it to him. Then he wrote another letter to the Dada in charge in the USA, Dada Yatishwar Anand. And then he drove the car 4 kilometers away from his office. It was snowing there, parked the car there, and he walked about 300-400 yards, sat in the middle of the snow. It was all dark there. And he left the letters there, and he lit himself up, and he died. There's a house about maybe a couple of 100 yards away who saw this flame, and he thought it was trash. There's a lady there, she thought it was trash fire. But next morning she called the police came, then they found him, they found his car, they found the letters, and the letter written to President Jimmy Carter was handed over to the US Secret Service agents, who protect the person of the American president. They were, this was a place called Garland in Texas, So they were, this is how Dada Gagan committed self-immolation. His father wrote a very, very touching letter to Dada Yatishwar Anand to say, look, I heard this thing about my son. He must be very, very devoted to your guru and all. And you all please perform his last rites the way you want to do, but just send his ashes home to us in Manila so that we will, scatter it. We will do the rest of the ceremony here. So this was done. Now coming back to Manila, we come to the next is Asitima Didi, a Swiss Didi, very young, maybe 23, from Switzerland. And she was posted in Manila. A beautiful young lady she was. Beauty, not so much inner beauty, People would simply, whenever she would walk into a room, it will light up the room. She had that kind of a aura about her. Very, very great devotee of Baba. And she was also had heard about, she was also very, very disturbed with all that was going on. And she also decided to take these extreme steps. She, on that fateful afternoon, she went to a place called Luneta Park in downtown Manila. She distributed some leaflets, which in fact she had herself cyclostyle and made out in a typing shop, carried it there and gave it to passersby. Explaining the reasons what she's doing, why she's doing, and how her guru in India was being tortured. This is how she went about it. And then quietly she sat down in sadhana, and then she also poured petrol over herself and committed self-immolation. Now, when her body was brought to the yoga house in Manila, sorry, you have to excuse me. I'm tending to get a little emotional. When her body was brought, the body was burnt, but her face was absolutely clear. Nothing happened to her face. It was as beautiful as ever. Everyone was shocked. They just could not understand how such a miracle can happen. The rest of the body was burned black, but her face was absolutely clear. So she was indeed a very great soul. So that was Didi's story. and she was cremated in a Chinese crematorium in Manila, and her ashes were sent to her parents in Switzerland. Next, we come to Didi Asitama. I hope that Didi, you can see her picture there. It is being covered from my side. Can you see her picture? The last one on the right?
Yes, yes.
You can see that?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. So she, what do you call, she was from Australia, and she was posted in Geneva, and she was about to join the training center in Sweden to get a full Didi's training. But then something happened, she also got carried away by whatever emotions that she was going through. She, in fact, got in touch with her father and told her that you can come and visit me in Sweden. I will, you can come and visit me, but I'm warning you that it is not going to be very, very comfortable for you. Her father was a very, very rich man, he was he had a lot of mines and a lot of money. And he was quite surprised that his daughter was going into such a Spartan kind of an existence. And he tried very hard to get her out of it, but she wouldn't. So, but she had decided that she will commit self-immolation just like the others before her. And which she did. You see, Geneva was actually, according to Baba, is a very, very tantric place, he had said that Lord Shiva had visited, his Lord Shiva's holy feet had walked those Alps. Alps is a very, very tantric place, not Geneva, sorry. Geneva happens to be there. And she probably, for whatever reason, the last day, she was very, very calm. She wrote many letters. She wrote a letter to the Pope. She wrote a letter to the head of the Jewish community. She was herself Jewish origin. Then she wrote a letter to Baba. Then she wrote a letter to her father. And she wrote many such letters explaining why she is doing all this. And it was a very beautiful, pleasant, sunny day in Geneva. Then she walked out, locked her room, and she went and quietly committed self-immolation. And her picture, because she was a daughter of a very, very rich person, was there in the front pages of a newspaper in Sydney where her father was from. It's good. What I will say, these 8 Didis and Dadas for a flaming moral purpose. These are their dates, which I've just explained. And Shanti Didi, last of Lord, did on October 2nd, and Didi Asitima on June 13th, 1978. And Dada Gagan, February 16, 1978. And the 2 German young Dadas and Didis on February 8, 1978. So 1978 was tragically the, very, very tragic month for us in Anand Marg, when 5 of them self-immolated. And it was in 78 only that Baba was released from jail. Didi Asitima, of course, had done it before Baba was released from jail on 2nd of August. But Shanti Didi, in spite of that, though she knew Baba was out, she still did that. And her letters are very, very poignant. She wrote a lot of good things. So she wrote, I'll give you one small example. She just said that, he says, if anyone dies of hunger, the universal mother that is in me also dies with that, with that person. She wrote some very, very beautiful letters, and she had decided that, this life is not worth living anymore. And she made this supreme sacrifice also again to bring attention to Baba's torture. Next, please. See, Baba gave a New Year's message on 1st January 1978. He was still in jail, you know. It is a longer message, but there's extract of that. The flame of a
Lamplight.
of a lamp lights up countless lamps. The touch of a great personality wakes up innumerable sleeping hearts. He was in jail, and this is a New Year's message. So now, Didis and Dadas, you can understand the connection, you know. Baba knew something like this was going to happen that year, 1978. Of course, Baba was all-knowing. He knew everything. Only we did not know him, what he was really, truly was. Next. Now, I'll show you some pictures of the self-immolation. I won't name which Dada this is. Those of you who know will know. But we should not forget, the flames of our bodies shall be a symbol for the selfless service of Anand Marga, and will consume the power of immortality and the darkness of evil forces. This was a message which was written by our two young German Dadas and Didi, Dada and Didi, you know, while they committed the self-immolation in Berlin. This was part of their message. The flames of our bodies, you know, shall be a symbol for the selfless service of Anand Marga and consume the power of immortality and the darkness of evil forces. Next. This is Dada Atul Ananda, whom I mentioned. You know, he took 7-8 hours to die. This was his ceremony, last rites. Next. Now, this is a picture in Australia, where these Australian Dadas, Didis, and Margi brothers and sisters are carrying Atul Ananda's part of his ashes. And then they walk down the streets and sprinkled it over Sydney Harbour. Next, please. Now, this is a very beautiful picture of Uma Didi in a function in Europe in 1970s, you know. He's just carrying somebody's child. This is the smiling Uma Didi, you know. It's a very, very rare picture which I'm sharing with you. I hope you all treasure it, because she is gone, but she is there somewhere in the limitless, boundless, cosmic force that keeps us all together. Next, please. This is Dada Gagan, you know. He was in USA. He was very active in trying to get Baba out of jail. He was very active in the Free Baba movement. He would give speeches. He will go from place to place, talk to people, talk to senators, talk to his congressmen, give press conferences. Here he is addressing the Free Baba movement in Dada Gagan in USA. Next, please. Now these are pictures I'm showing. This, of course, it was shown by Vermaji also. This was Baba being taken to court in an ambulance, you know, how weak he had become. And they were, there's a big story about that. In fact, CBI was very keen to produce him in court, but Baba was so weak, and his lawyers told them, look, he cannot come. If you don't believe me, send a doctor to see if he can come or not. And the CBI lawyers really shouted, tried to shout, but they could not. They could not outshout our lawyers. Lawyers told them that, look, you have to be sensible. You cannot shout. Let's argue sensibly. Send a doctor. If the doctor certifies he's okay, let him come. We have no objections. So the judge agreed. Then he was sent out, And meantime, he was in the ambulance, and huge crowds had gathered out there outside this court in Patna, And the didis and dadas of the overseas Margis were crying, and all the Indians were flabbergasted watching these overseas didis and dadas crying away for Baba, So the doctor went, and then they examined him, and came back and told the judge, no, he can't come. He was sent back to the jail. Second time he was brought in a stretcher inside the jail, where he gave his testimony, which is another story, of course. Next, please. Now, this is a representational image of Baba in jail, Now, he used to get visitors. I will read out 2 small poems that was, I can read it. 2 small poems, one was by Sundari Devi. He was on his back smiling, his hands in namaskar on his heart. The vibration was coming from him so very sentient. It made me think of some cosmic lighthouse shining out for the entire dark universe. This was in July 1977, a year before Baba was released. Then we have another one in September the same year, Amalina Didi. Very beautiful poem. Your eyes, deep and piercing as a bullet, flash into mine for an instant. Your smile, wide and powerful as embracing arms, welcomes for an instant. Direct, total, simple. Your web-like emaciation. Baba had become so weak, Your web-like emaciation binds such radiance, such dynamic joy. These fragile confines, your limbs, only enhance your mightiness. Through the corridor of my longing, your words echo, come again, as I leave the cell. After Amalina leaving the cell in September 77. Next, please. Next. Now we come to after Baba was released, there's practically whole of Patna had come out on the streets. You can see here Baba's car and the crowds, and they all, from the jail to his house in Patliputra colony is almost 4 miles away. And the car could not drive fast enough, so driving slowly through such huge crowds. And people are all running after the car. After they got clear of the crowds, then the car picked up speed, but the people still ran all the way up to his house in Patliputra colony, which picture you saw before. Next. Now, this is how Baba broke his fast, from the hands of his sister. He took a cup of orange juice. That was after such a long time. Next, please. The next day after he was out on Patna ground and gave his first discourse, which he talked about the human mind and how you should worship Parampurush. It was a very beautiful discourse, and he gave it extempore. This was the first discourse he gave after he was put into jail on the 29th of December 1971, almost 7 years later. Next, please. Now, I have one suggestion to all those who are listening. We need to have all these Dadijis who made the supreme sacrifice. They are not all. There are many more who have not been covered in this presentation. And they also all of them need to be remembered for posterity. It is not only historically essential, it is also serves a social purpose for the present generation and people of the future generation. See, what I will say, for those who made the supreme sacrifice for a flaming moral purpose. Now, the armed forces, I am from the armed forces. I'm very fortunate to say that I am from the armed force. We have memorials all over the world. In every country has it. India or Pakistan or in Europe, in USA, England, we all have war memorials to commemorate those who made the supreme sacrifice for an ideal higher than themselves. It is not that you're dying for your country and all. That is all part of a general statement. But actually, what drives a man to give up his life in battle? Not for his country and king. That is not really the real truth. The real truth is, at least in India, the man, Indian soldier, he fights for his unit, for his paltan, and he fights gives up his life for the izzat of his paltan. That is the, what shall we say, the izzat, word for izzat is the word is slipping my mind, but the name and fame and the good name and fame of his brotherhood of arms. It is basically, that is what drives them at the last moment. When a soldier charges into attack, he's not thinking of his king and country and all that sort of thing. He's thinking of his unit, his brothers in arms, and how he is to protect them. And he charges and gives it beyond. And Baba has said, and it is a universal truth, those who die on the battlefield, they get liberation from the cycle of birth and death. So that is why it is very essential that we should have a historical, social, serve the historical, social purpose and have a memorial. You see, Anand Marg Pracharak Sangh must do the same thing for all these Dadichis. The spirit, they are the spiritual soldiers. That's what Baba called them, and all of us do. And it should not matter that, one is a sannyasi, renunciate, he cannot be remembered and all that. He's renounced everything. That is fine, very well. Or whether he is a sannyasi or he's a family man. Fact is, the future generations must remember his time in this physical world, whether he was a sannyasi or a family man. Like I said before, there are many more who made the supreme sacrifice, which have not been mentioned, which is not possible for them, a memorial is fully justified. It is very, very essential that we must have. We go to the next slide, please. There is a memorial of sorts on the Dadiji Hill in Anand Nagar. This is a picture of that. Every day on Dadiji Divas, a small ceremony takes place where Didis, Dadas go and put some flowers on them, on this memorial. Now, this needs to be built into a proper memorial, a proper building on which, of course, we have a lot of ideas and all that. But then maybe for want of funds or something, this has not been done. But it is not something that should not be done. It should be done whenever the opportune moment arises and whenever the money comes. It should certainly be done. Next, please. Now, this picture, of course, has been shown by Varmaji earlier, the old jail and the present day photographs. Next, please. See, this Bankipur jail was a colonial jail from British time. It was demolished, and on this ground stands today the Buddha Smriti Park, which was inaugurated on 27th May 2010 by the Dalai Lama on Buddha's 2550th anniversary. That is Vaishakhi Purnima. Vaishakhi Purnima also happens to be Baba's birthday. ironically, these beautiful surroundings, what we see today, which was inaugurated also on Baba's birthday, Baba spent nearly 7 years there, tortured and, almost killed in the process. And this was inaugurated on Baba's birthday in 2010. Of course, Baba by then had already left us, his physical form, that is. He has never left us, he's always with us, that we all know. Now today, alongside the new only few ruins of the old jail, stand solemn and in silent testimony to the unjust suffering perpetrated on Baba within its imposing walls, which he bore with a smile. And that is our Baba, He takes everything with a smile, the suffering also, his own suffering, and he makes sure that we do not suffer. Then he never smiles. He makes sure that we try and get our suffering is reduced. That is our Baba, always smiling. Next. With that, Didis and Dadas, thank you very much for your patient hearing. Namaskar. Now, if there are any questions, I don't know whether I'll be able to answer them, but I will try.